everyone, I'm Ashley Wylde, and today we're going to talk about something super cool that gets me jazzed. Gender.
Hi everyone, my name is Ashley Wylde and welcome to my channel, Ashley's Wild Life. This week with special guest Simone of Boxed Wine and Bullshit.
What's up, y'all?
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your personal channel?
My channel is just called Simone, and I call it a beauty and lifestyle channel, so I do a little bit of makeup and a little bit of other things.
So today on this channel we're going to talk about gender and intersectionality, and we're also going to make a video over on Catherine's channel talking about self-love. You will definitely want to check out both. There'll be a link in the description, there'll be a card somewhere towards the end of the video. Definitely go check out her channel, get subscribed, and watch our video and let us know what you think about self-love. I wanted to start this video with a little bit of background and a definition of the word intersectionality. Intersectionality was first coined in 1989 by Kimberly Crenshaw of the UCLA School of Law and Columbia Law School. The theory of intersectionality is based on the concept that oppressive institutions within a society, such as racism, ageism, sexism, and homophobia, do not act independently, but are instead interrelated and continuously shaped by one another. So while I have Kat here with me, I wanted to talk about each of us from our own perspectives, how we see gender as intersecting with other identities that we might hold, and why that's important. I feel like intersectionality is kind of a big word, so to speak. Like, a lot of people don't even know how to begin to unpack that.
Definitely.
I'm thinking about people to where I'll say to them, how do you identify? How do you identify in general? Or how do you identify your sexuality? How do you identify your gender? And they literally are like,
They're like, I don't know.
I've never thought about
Yeah.
it. And that makes the concept of intersectionality like really kind of out of reach for some people. Because if you don't
Definitely.
know what your identities are, it would be a little hard to understand how they affect each other.
Definitely.
And how they layer.
Yeah, I guess before you start doing intersectionality work, you gotta really know, like, what are my identities? How do they affect each other at the same time?
Exactly.
It's a lot. How does intersectionality manifest in your life in terms of gender?
With intersectionality, and especially as it pertains to gender, one of the big things I run into, well, there's two things. The first one is like just a general confusion about how gender identity is different from sexuality. People who haven't had to really question those two identities kind of get them like smushed together into this conglomerate of what those things mean. But you know, people of all genders identify with all different sexualities. There's no hard and fast link. Like, just because you're a trans person does not mean that you have to be gay or a lesbian or bisexual or queer or anything else. You could be a binary trans person who identifies as straight, and that definitely is valid. And so that link between gender and sexuality, I've definitely run into that. And like the intersection of those two creates a unique identity in every person. And then the other thing with that, it gets really complicated by the fact that trans people are so underrepresented in media, because it brings up the danger of a single story. So if the only trans person you've ever heard of or known about was Caitlyn Jenner, then there would be some really important things missing from that narrative, like the financial and emotional struggle that goes along with needing to transition for your mental health and not having the means to. I feel like because trans people are so underrepresented, what I run into is this idea that anyone who identifies with the same identifier as me must have the same exact experiences. Like, how my trans identity plays into my life is changed by my queer identity. It's changed by my mixed race identity. It's changed by the fact that I was raised in a middle class household. It's changed by the fact that I have a college education, by the fact that I'm a US citizen. All of those things interact with my trans identity, and it's not possible to separate them. Someone who has every other identity the same as me but has a different racial identity would inherently experience their trans identity differently. And that's where intersectionality starts to play a really big part.
I agree with that. I think that, so, you know, sometimes in intersectionality you may share one identifier that might be the same, and you may have similar characteristics or whatever. Like, for example, on Box Wine, Sophie and I, we both have black moms and white dads, except her mom is from Ethiopia.
Right.
My mom is from Louisiana. So, I mean, like, yeah, we both grew up with black moms, and we could get together and have a lot of shared experiences and just kind of growing up mixed. But at the end of the day, like, our moms are from two completely different places.
Exactly.
So there's gonna be parts about our our mixedness, if that's even a word,
right,
that's different. When it comes to gender, I think that my race plays a really big part in my intersectionality, just because I navigate through this world not only as a woman but a woman of color. And I think oftentimes because I'm a woman of color, my body is often sexualized. No matter what I wear, if I'm wearing, you know, baggy clothes, or if I'm wearing something that's like flatters my figure, I feel like my body's just sexualized. And like I remember in high school, I would always get like, you know, not pulled over, but in the hallways, like, hey girl, like you need to go to the office because your shorts are too short or whatever. But then, you know, another, you know, person that would be white would be walking down the hall with the same booty shorts on, but she's not the one, she don't have to go home and change. And I don't know if it's because like sometimes with women of color, depending on like your body type, have a little bit more extra curves in other places, and so automatically, no matter even how old you are, like you could be 12 years old, like nope, you need to go home because your shorts are too short and I can see your booty, you know, just protruding. Whereas, you know, Sally Walker is walking by and it's kind of like this, you know, stereotypically, and she can wear that because it's not a problem. My attention isn't like, who, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like you're a cisgender, feminine presenting woman.
Definitely, yes.
But your experience as a cisgender, feminine presenting woman is inherently different than a white, cisgender, feminine presenting woman.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the crux of intersectionality.
Yeah.
Is that you can share one, several, almost all your identities with another person, and still, if you don't share an identity with someone, you're going to have a different experience. People who share several identities with me, I tend to kind of be close to them because I'm like, you know a lot about my experience. But then we'll be in a situation where that one identity shows up, like the fact that I identify as trans, I identify as gender non-binary. A lot of people who share similar expression of their gender with me, they either identify as women or they identify as trans men. A lot of the time, people who I like connect with on gender, they don't identify as non-binary. And so when that comes up, it's odd because that person who I've been so able to connect with is kind of like, wow, this is something I've never experienced. I think intersectionality, like we said in the beginning, it's a really kind of higher level thinking type of topic.
Definitely, yeah. Intersectionality itself is just like, just the word. Just
to be able to begin to understand it, let alone figure out how it plays out for you or the people around you. Like that's the thing about intersectionality is you cannot begin to guess how another person's identities intersect to construct their experience.
Yeah.
And that's why, at least for me, it's so important that I be an ally to all minoritized identities and their communities to the best of my ability, because I don't know what it's like, for example, to be differently abled physically.
Yeah.
But I do know what it's like to be a non-binary person. And if that has anything in common, even just feeling like othered and different, then I know that that's a community that I want to be able to stand up for. And sometimes you don't get it right, you know, sometimes you don't always know what to do, but it's definitely worth it to try for me.
Yeah, that's why I think inclusivity is so important, and like inclusive language. And I know there are like, you know, there's like one group of people who is like, no, we need inclusive language, we need inclusivity. And then there's a group of people who are like, oh, why is everybody getting so offended by everything? And then there's like people in the middle who like don't care. But I think like in order to live in a more progressive society, like why wouldn't you care about, you know, using someone else's pronouns the way that they want to be addressed? You know what I mean? If it's something that is really affecting you and pertains to you, like why can't other people respect that? You know what I mean? But it's like the people who have those privileges don't see from their lens. You know, and I think it's really hard to take off your privilege glasses, your privileged sunglasses, and to see like, you know, oh, that person's going through it. You know what I mean? If that were me, like I would want someone to, you know, treat me the way I wanted to be treated.
The main thing that I have taken from like understanding intersectionality and understanding how it applies to me is that I try my absolute best to just listen and believe people when they talk about their experiences. Because where that like lack of inclusivity comes in is this notion of I know your experience better than you do. Definitely. And if you can just shut your mouth and you can just listen to a person tell you what their experience is like, you can learn a lot. And you can be a
definitely.
much better ally, but also like a better person.
There's a reason why all of us are the way we are. It's a reason why all of us are different, so we can learn from each other and learn those perspectives and, you know, just see a different side of life.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? Like, my aunt, she has cerebral palsy, so it's like when she tells me what it's like when she's like, I just sit, you know, I can't really like walk very well, but I can just sit and like I see the world from a different angle because like I'm always sitting down. Like I can see what's happening before other people even see what's gonna happen. And it's like, wow, I never would have seen that perspective or like thought about it like that, or had an idea of like, dang, it's kind of hard for someone who is disabled to get from here to there. You know, like what would that look like for me? You know, I feel like those are just, again, like intersectionality, inclusivity, privileges, like all those conversations like have to be had like around each other.
I agree.
It's a lot.
But it's worthwhile work.
It definitely
like,
is.
That's why we pour our time and energy into it. That's why we do this. That's why we talk about these things. Because it makes the world a better place.
It does. And even if they may look at you like you're bananas, I think it's like planting the seed. You know, if they take anything away from what you're talking about, like at least a seed has been planted. Just gotta water it.
All right, everyone. Well, that was Catherine and I's candid thoughts about intersectionality and especially how gender relates to intersectionality. Like I mentioned, we're going to post another video on Catherine's channel talking about self-love. Click here to go see the other video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
You say, thank you for following me on Patreon and helping me follow my dreams in being a better YouTuber and creator. Bye-bye.
That was excellent.
Really?
It's a single-handed bye-bye, but other than that,
bye-bye.
that's pretty good.